My sister planned a wedding at my house without asking, but faced a shocking twist at the key moment. My name is Emily. I'm 27. And if introversion were an Olympic sport, I'd be standing on the podium, gold medal in one hand, a cup of tea in the other. My home is my sanctuary, a place where I recharge, away from the noise of the world. But then there's Qley, my 29-year-old sister, who's basically the human version of a hurricane, dressed in designer heels. She's the family's golden child, shining bright and stepping on everyone to keep her glow intact. Charismatic? Sure. Selfish? Oh, absolutely. Our relationship is like oil and water. Forced proximity makes us explode. So, imagine my surprise when I dragged myself home after a soul-sucking week at work and found Qley standing in my living room, her entourage of strangers buzzing around like worker bees. She was smiling that smug, "I'm about to ruin your life" smile she's perfected over the years. "What are you doing here?" I asked, already regretting every life choice that led me to this moment. She flipped her perfectly curled hair over her shoulder, as if she were the main character in a rom-com. "Oh, I just wanted to talk to you about something," she said, her voice sugary sweet. "You don't mind if I crash here for a couple of days, right?" Crash? Qley doesn't crash. She invades, she occupies, and she conquers. My brain screamed, "Red alert! Code Qley! Evacuate now!" But my mouth, traitor that it is, muttered, Sure? Perfect," she chirped, clapping her hands. "This is going to be amazing." Spoiler alert, it was not amazing. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of loud voices and something heavy being dragged across my hardwood floors. I stumbled downstairs to find a group of strangers assembling a floral arch in the middle of my backyard. My backyard. Qley was in the center of the chaos, barking orders like a reality TV show diva. "What is happening?" I asked, waving at the mess of petals, ladders, and ribbons that looked like a Pinterest board exploded. Qley turned, grinning like she'd just invented electricity. "Oh, didn't I mention? I'm hosting my wedding here. Your house is perfect for it." My brain short-circuited. Wedding? Here? "Qley, this is my house. You can't just—" "Relax, Emily," she interrupted, rolling her eyes. "You'll barely notice us. It's just for one day." One day? My home had already turned into a carnival, and it wasn't even noon. But that's the thing about Qley. She doesn't ask for permission. She announces. And apparently, her announcement came with guests, furniture, and a floral designer who thought tacky was a theme. Little did she know, I wasn't going to let her get away with this. The next morning, I stumbled downstairs expecting my usual peaceful coffee ritual. Instead, I walked into what could only be described as chaos on steroids. My house wasn't just messy. It looked like the aftermath of a Hobby Lobby explosion. There were giant boxes stacked in the hallway, ribbons spilling over the furniture, and people I didn't recognize wielding clipboards like they were planning a heist. My cozy home? It had been hijacked. "Excuse me," I shouted, dodging a man carrying what looked like a chandelier. "What the heck is going on here?" Qley appeared from behind a pile of floral arrangements, wearing her signature grin. The one that says, "Yes, I did just ruin your life, and no, I don't care." "Oh, good morning, Emily. Isn't it exciting? Everything is coming together so well." "Qley," I said, trying to keep my cool, though I could feel my eye twitching. "What is happening?" She waved a hand, as if this were no big deal. "Oh, I completely forgot to mention," she said, her tone so casual it could have been mistaken for sincerity. "I've decided to have my wedding here. Your backyard is huge. It's perfect for the vibe I'm going for." The vibe she was going for? What, hostile takeover chic? "You what?" My voice came out louder than intended, but honestly, who wouldn't yell at this point? "Qley, this is my house. You can't just decide to—" "Relax, Emily," she said, cutting me off like a pro. "It's just one day. You won't even notice us." She smiled as though she were doing me a favor. "Won't notice?" I gestured to the chaos. "There are strangers in my house. What if I had walked downstairs in my pajamas?" Qley raised an eyebrow. "You wear pajamas?" I was this close to losing it. "Qley, this isn't normal. People don't just commandeer someone's home for a wedding. Oh, come on, she said with a laugh. I knew you wouldn't mind. You're always home anyway. It's not like you had other plans. My jaw nearly hit the floor. Not like I had other plans? Qley, this is beyond inconsiderate. It's insane. She patted me on the shoulder as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. Don't be so dramatic, Emily. Trust me, you'll love it. Everyone's going to say how amazing the house looks. Spoiler, I didn't love it. And as for my amazing house, it was starting to look like a circus tent with delusions of grandeur. But arguing with Qley was like yelling at a brick wall. If the wall also rolled its eyes and told you to lighten up. At that moment, I knew I couldn't just let this slide. Qley might have thought she was the queen of the universe, but I wasn't about to let her turn my home into her royal wedding venue without a fight. By the time the sun came up, my house had fully transformed into a blockbuster film set, minus the glamour and A-list actors. The front yard? Overrun with trucks unloading giant crates, awkwardly balanced tables, and literal Greek columns. Greek columns. It looked like Zeus himself was planning to drop by for cocktails. The chaos spilled inside, where a swarm of strangers buzzed around like caffeinated bees. My living room? Gone. Replaced by fabric swatches and floral arrangements that screamed expensive but tacky. Naturally, I tried to put my foot down. My house, my rules, right? Wrong. Apparently, Qley missed the memo. Qley, I said, cutting through the noise of people assembling a stage. Yes, a stage. This is my home, not some reality TV venue. What the hell is going on? She breezed past me, clipboard in hand, as though I was just another piece of furniture. Emily, can you not freak out for once in your life? She said, not even sparing me a glance. You're always so boring. Relax, it's just for one day. Just for one day? Was she joking? My kitchen was buried under champagne glasses, my couch was covered in sequins, and I'm pretty sure someone was setting up a smoke machine in the backyard. One day? It was one apocalypse. That's when Jake, my next-door neighbor, showed up. He's one of those chill guys who somehow manages to make sarcasm feel like a compliment. He walked up to my porch, dodging a guy carrying a gigantic ice sculpture, shaped like a swan. Emily, Jake said, taking in the chaos with wide eyes. You okay? Your house looks like Cirque du Soleil crashed into a Hallmark movie. I threw up my hands. You tell me, Jake. I went to bed and by morning, my house turned into a Pinterest board on steroids. He chuckled, but then caught sight of Qley strutting around like she was a director on set. Who's in charge of this madness? That, I said, pointing at her, is my sister. Or, as I like to call her, the self-appointed queen of chaos. Jake raised an eyebrow. Does she realize this isn't her house? Not only does she realize, I said, voice dripping with sarcasm, she's thrilled. Apparently my backyard is the perfect venue for her royal wedding. Jake shook his head. This is insane. Oh, Jake, I said, forcing a grin. This isn't insane. This is the prelude. Just wait. Qley waltzed back through the room, snapping her fingers at someone carrying a massive chandelier. Oh, Emily, could you try not to look so miserable? You're ruining the vibe. Ruining the vibe? My house was unrecognizable, my life was spiraling, and she was worried about her vibe. I realized then this wasn't just about a wedding. This was a declaration of war. And Qley? She had no idea what was coming. By the time I hit my limit, I was practically vibrating with rage. My house looked like a wedding factory threw up in it, and Qley acted like the CEO of My Life Doesn't Matter Inc. So I did what any self-respecting, fed-up homeowner would do. I marched into the chaos and issued the ultimate ultimatum. Qley, I said, arms crossed like a disappointed mom. Either you cancel this wedding circus right now, or I'm calling the police. Your choice. She froze for a second, processing my words like I'd just announced her favorite reality show was cancelled. And then, it happened. The Qley meltdown TM. What the hell is wrong with you? She shrieked, throwing her clipboard down like a mic drop. This is the most important day of my life, and you're trying to ruin it because you're what? Jealous? Jealous? Oh, please. I was jealous of people with quiet neighbors, not Kelly's chaos-fueled ego trip. Jealous of what, Kelly? The disaster you're turning my house into? I shot back, my voice dripping with sarcasm. But Kelly wasn't finished. She pointed an accusing finger at me like she was handing down a death sentence. You're just bitter because you don't have a life. You sit in this boring house, doing whatever it is you do. No one even notices you, Emily. Okay, ouch. That one stung a little. But before I could respond, she went for the jugular. And if you ruin this for me, she hissed, leaning in like a villain in a soap opera, Mom and Dad will never forgive you. You'll be the family outcast. Again. Cue the sucker punch. My family had always treated Kelly like she hung the moon while I was the shadow. No matter what she did, they had her back. And here she was, wielding that history like a weapon. I stood there, stunned into silence, as Kelly basked in her self-righteous glow. Around us, her wedding minions kept working, completely unfazed by the scene unfolding. One guy walked by carrying a giant floral arrangement, muttering something about how it clashed with the theme. Like, dude, read the room. The worst part? A small, irrational part of me wondered if she was right. What if Mom and Dad would side with her, again? What if I ended up the bad guy in this family drama, cast as the jealous spinster who ruined her sister's big day? I felt the anger boiling under my skin, but now it was tangled with doubt. Should I call her bluff? Should I let this disaster play out and deal with the fallout later? My hands clenched into fists as I watched her saunter off, yelling something about lighting placement. One thing was clear. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was about every time Kelly had walked all over me, every time my family let her. And I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep playing the role of quiet little Emily. That night, I tossed and turned, replaying the chaos over and over in my head. How does someone have the audacity to hijack another person's house for their entire wedding? Kelly wasn't just shameless. She was on a mission to redefine the word. I imagined her in the dictionary next to shameless, grinning with a clipboard in one hand and a bouquet in the other. By the time morning rolled around, I was running on caffeine and pure frustration. But when I stumbled downstairs thinking nothing could surprise me anymore, I saw it. A wedding cake. A giant wedding cake. Sitting smack in the middle of my living room like it owned the place. Are you kidding me? I yelled, my voice echoing through the room. Kelly appeared out of nowhere, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Oh, good, you're up. Isn't it stunning? The baker really outdid themselves. The baker? I spluttered. Kelly, why is there a cake the size of a small car in my living room? She waved me off as though I'd just asked why the sky was blue. Relax, Emily. It's just for storage. The fridge was too small. Storage? I echoed, gesturing wildly at the monstrosity of frosting and fondant. This is my home, not a bakery showroom. Kelly rolled her eyes like I was the unreasonable one. You're being so dramatic. It's just a cake. No, Kelly, it's not just a cake. It's the fact that you keep walking all over me like I'm the doormat that came with the house. She didn't even blink. Well, maybe if you stopped acting like a doormat. That was it. The last straw. The straw wasn't just broken. It was obliterated, torched, and sent into orbit. I stormed into the kitchen, grabbed my phone, and called the one person who might actually enjoy this train wreck as much as I hated it. Jake. Hey, Jake, I said, trying to sound calm, though my voice was trembling with rage. You free? I've got a plan. Jake, bless him, didn't even hesitate. Let me guess, Kelly finally pushed you over the edge? She's practically tap dancing on it, I snapped. When I told him my idea, there was a pause. Then he laughed, a full-on from-the-belly laugh. Oh man, Emily, he said, still chuckling. She had this coming for years. Let's do it. Hearing his confidence gave me the boost I needed. For the first time in days, I felt like I had a sliver of control. Kelly might think she's untouchable, but she was about to learn the hard way. You don't mess with the quiet one and expect to walk away unscathed. The big day had arrived. My house, once my peaceful sanctuary, was now packed to the brim with strangers who treated it like a five-star wedding venue. Everywhere I looked, there were people sipping champagne, snapping pictures, and raving about how stunning everything was. Yeah, it was stunning, all right. Stunning how I hadn't already combusted from pure rage. The flowers were perfect, the music was obnoxiously cheerful, and the drinks? Flowing like my patience wasn't about to run out. Qley? Oh, she was glowing. Her wedding dress was the kind of over-the-top designer piece that screamed, "Look at me, I'm rich and important." She floated through the crowd, smiling like she'd orchestrated the event of the century, and honestly, she kind of had. Everything was going exactly as she wanted. Meanwhile, I skulked in the shadows like some wedding day goblin, silently plotting her downfall. The ceremony started, and the guests, completely oblivious to my brewing chaos, clapped politely as Qley made her grand entrance. She walked down the aisle my backyard had become, looking every bit the princess in her fairy tale moment. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it all. My backyard, my house, and she acted like it was her personal castle. As Qley and her fiancé reached the front, the music softened. The officiant began his speech, talking about love, commitment, blah blah blah. I barely heard it over the pounding in my chest. Not from nerves, mind you, from sheer excitement. My plan was locked and loaded. The vows began. Qley held her fiancé's hands, gazing into his eyes like she'd just won the lottery. "I promise to love you," she started, her voice dripping with sweetness. Cue the awes from the crowd. Barf. And then, just as her fiancé opened his mouth to recite his part, it happened. A loud commotion erupted from the driveway. At first it was just some shouting, but it quickly escalated into full-on chaos. Guests turned their heads, whispering in confusion. Qley froze, her smile faltering for the first time all day. What's going on?" she hissed to the officiant, who looked just as clueless. That's when the surprise arrived. Let's just say I'd made a few calls the night before to some very important people. People who, unlike Qley, understood the meaning of rules. Suddenly, a man in uniform marched into the backyard, clipboard in hand. "Excuse me," he announced loudly, cutting through the murmurs. "This event is in violation of several local ordinances. You don't have a permit for this gathering, and it's trespassing on private property." Kelly's jaw dropped. "What? No, there must be a mistake," she stammered, clutching her bouquet like it was her last lifeline. "Oh, there's no mistake," I said, stepping out of the shadows with the kind of grin that says checkmate. The look on her face? Priceless. Just as the officiant was fumbling to figure out what to do, the back door swung open, and in walked the cavalry. Uniformed officers, badges gleaming under the afternoon sun. They didn't look like they were here to congratulate the happy couple. "Sorry to interrupt," one of them announced, his voice cutting through the confused chatter like a knife. "We received a complaint about an unauthorized event being held on private property without the proper permits." Cue the collective gasp from the crowd. Champagne glasses froze mid-sip. Someone in the back actually said, "Wait, what's happening?" As if the police walking in was some kind of performance art. Qley, ever the drama queen, turned as pale as her pristine wedding dress. "This is ridiculous!" she shrieked, her voice cracking in a way that was almost satisfying. "There has to be some kind of mistake. This is my wedding. What do you mean unauthorized?" The officer didn't flinch. "Ma'am, there are specific regulations for gatherings of this size, and based on our records, no permits have been issued for this address." Translation: Your little royal ball is illegal, Qley. The guests started whispering, some edging toward the exits as if they didn't want to be caught up in whatever legal drama was about to go down. One lady, clutching a sequined clutch, leaned over to her husband and whispered, "I knew something was off." Qley, meanwhile, went into full meltdown mode. "This is a private event, on private property. Who would dare complain?" she yelled, her voice rising with every word. I couldn't help it. I bit the inside of my cheek to stop from laughing out loud. Watching her stomp around in her designer heels, yelling at law enforcement like they were customer service reps, was peak comedy. "Ma'am, we're just following protocol," the officer said, calm as ever. If you can't provide the necessary permits, we'll have to ask everyone to vacate the premises. And that's when Qley finally cracked. Do you have any idea how much this day cost me? The cake alone was $5,000. The officer blinked, clearly unimpressed. That's unfortunate, he said flatly. But rules are rules. By now, the guests were in full panic mode. Some were already heading for their cars, while others stayed back, clearly hoping for more drama. I stood off to the side, arms crossed, a spectator to the greatest unraveling I'd ever witnessed. The best part? Qley didn't even glance in my direction. Not once. She was too busy screaming at the officers and trying to salvage what little dignity she had left. The fact that she never suspected I was the one who filed the complaint? Chef's kiss. As the officers started escorting people out, Qley's fiancé leaned in and whispered something to her. Whatever he said made her face go beet red. And me? I just stood there, silently enjoying the show. Karma, as they say, always delivers. As the guests began leaving, Qley stormed up to me. "You did this, didn't you?" she hissed. I simply smiled. "This is my house, Qley. I didn't ask for you to invade it." She stormed out, and for the first time, I felt a sense of peace. Later, Jake came over with a bottle of wine. "You were brilliant, Emily. Maybe this will finally teach her a lesson." Maybe it would. But at that moment, I knew one thing for sure. I would never again let Qley or anyone else disrupt my life.